Hallmark movie is making Christmas seem like, but it all is perfect in the end. But what about when it's not? What about when it's just an utter shit show and that's reality? Where do we go then?
Indeed, and it is always an utter shit show for somebody.
Break out your Advent candles because this is it. The first Sunday of Advent is coming up. Can you believe it? Here it is. Okay, Adrienne, welcome to your second Advent at Riverside. How
Woo!
does that feel?
Feels fantastic. It really feels fantastic. I feel like I'm settling in. It's just amazing to have this incredible, gifted team to work with. We've just hired new, yes, including you, Reverend Jim, but
Yes.
also
Yes. Oh,
your
yes.
colleagues, our colleagues in the communications department, and everything they're doing to help us communicate hope, peace, joy, and love this season. This season when there's a lot in the world that's heavy.
Yeah.
But I also think Advent typically is. The days are getting colder. Um, there's a darkness. We've set our clocks back. And we often go into this season with a lot of, I think, fake, maybe false happiness. Um, and I think what we're able to do this year, particularly with the text that we're looking at in the narrative lectionary, is lean into the reality of people's lives. Certainly of the lives of the characters in these stories, but also the reality of what's going on in our country and in our world. Former presidents under indictment, to bombs being dropped in Gaza, the grief of hostages in Gaza and the families who love them. And we get these texts that have this bifurcated tension of what's not working and what's hurting, and this God who we have been saying for weeks is with us and for us and hasn't given up on us. And that just speaks so beautifully to the hope of this Sunday. So our first theme is hope. Um, and we're also leaning into our true religion theme. So this notion of what does hope look like? Well, it looks like breaking down walls. It looks like binding up wounds and healing what is broken. That's the hope for those future days that are coming.
And we definitely get that sense of hope in the text for this Sunday. Jeremiah
Yes.
33, this is the righteous branch. Surely the days are coming when I will fulfill the
Yes.
promise I made. What does it say here? A righteous branch will spring up for David to execute
Yes.
justice and righteousness in the land.
In the
So it definitely
land.
gives that sense of hope and looking for something that we need to come.
Right. Justice is coming. We're hoping for justice. We're hoping for righteousness, hoping for the days to come that,
Yeah.
the prophet says will surely come when Judah will be saved.
Mm.
So this is the southern kingdom. We were there last week. Yes.
Yep, yep. We're at the end though. Jeremiah, he's the mournful prophet.
He
Lamentations is coming, and
is.
it's not the best news for him and his crew. But in the midst of that, still there is the sense of God's presence and being hopeful, no matter what.
Right, that we will be saved and that we will live in safety.
Yeah.
And we know, and this is the tension again, we know that that's not the reality for far too many people. Their situation is bleak, and they are not living in safety. They're not living in the safety of food security, housing security. We're still struggling with asylum seekers here in New York, and not just New York, but throughout the nation. I think people are trying to make it New York's complete and total responsibility. But this is a human responsibility to care for and work for justice and righteousness for all people. So there's some great texts for us to talk about human realities right now.
How do you balance talking about hope, especially when people feel utterly hopeless? Because it can feel like, yeah, easy for you to say, or you don't know what it's like where I'm at, or how do you navigate that in a way that doesn't just sound like just believe better and everything will be okay?
Right. Whenever I talk about hope in the biblical text, I am often holding in my imagination and holding in the picture of who I'm preaching to those for whom I imagine there is no hope. And
Mm.
I think that tempers what I say so that I don't go off the rails into the happy, happy joy place. And what's interesting, I think, when I do that, there's a universality to that. So even the person who, as you suggested, like me, who perhaps can access hope, I think when you preach from the underbelly, it touches everybody because even the ones who should have hope maybe do have hope, I think, get a door opened in them that goes, actually, this lack of hope is true for me too. I actually now have to look at what um, I'm struggling with. Parents who are aging and perhaps have health conditions that are um, challenging, fears that I have, and the lack of hope, I think, is a very universal thing, even for those of us who can point to some hopeful things in our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost a necessary, invitation for this season of Advent,
Right.
because especially the people who see the world through rainbow colored lenses and rainbows and Snoopy's everywhere, we're the ones, I said this as myself very much included, who
Yeah.
need to be reminded of the honest look at our own humanity as
Right.
well as the shared humanity, particularly during this Advent season leading up to Christmas, when every Netflix movie and Hallmark movie is making Christmas seem like, but it all is perfect in the end. But what about when it's not? What about
What
when it's
about
just
when
an
it's
utter shit show and that's reality?
not?
Where do we go then?
Indeed, and it is always an utter shit show for somebody, which is
Yeah.
why this notion of righteousness is so powerful for the notion of hope. Hope springs from justice. Hope springs from salvation. The saving of somebody, the bringing of righteousness. These days that are surely coming. It takes work to get hope. Hope is not rainbows and Snoopies and sitting on the couch and eating ice cream while you watch a Hallmark movie. It's actually us out in the street calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, calling for the release of the hostages that are being held in Gaza, working to make sure our neighbors have the food that they need, the housing, all the stuff. That's what sends you home feeling hopeful. That's what makes me able to, continue to have the energy to care for my parents and what they're going through, is because, yesterday I was at the United Nations calling for a ceasefire, or you went to your local food pantry and donated out of your own largesse, or out of what little you had, to make a holiday happen for somebody else. And that is what this text is calling us to. Hope is not what we often think it is. It springs from justice work. So when we're out busy doing the things that we're called to do as justice loving people, then we got
Yeah.
hope.
Then we got hope. And
Then we got
Jeremiah
hope.
is qualified because he's not just looking
Right.
at life is great sitting on gold-plated toilets.
Right. Right.
He's there, in the midst of it's all falling apart, or
It's
this is
all
not how
falling
it's supposed
apart.
to be.
Right.
And I'm not just going to sit around and say we're going to organize, we're going to do something. We're going to see a God who is present with us,
Hmm.
especially in this
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah. And what do we call Jeremiah? This is the weeping
The
prophet. This is
weeping
the
prophet.
weeping prophet talking about hope. What? Yes. He, like you said,
Yeah.
so qualified to do it, to talk about what is coming, to paint a picture for us of what is the advent, what is the
Yeah.
coming, what is the thing we're waiting for. That's the hope. And then we've got a call to do the work to make it happen. It's
So
actually
we're going
really
to
great. I'm getting very excited
be
about preaching this sermon.
well, good. This show's doing its job. We're going to be talking about Advent for quite a
Yeah,
while, 4 weeks,
right.
in fact, because there are
Hmm.
4 weeks to Advent. Give everyone watching, listening, just the Advent 101. What is Advent? What is the season? Why is it not yet Christmas? What's going on here?
Right. I think Advent, like Lent, is a journey. We start someplace in the hopes of getting somewhere else. I think what might be a little different for me about Advent, as opposed to Lent, is that I think, are waiting for something that's coming to us.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Lent for me can feel like more like a journey towards to the cross. Um, Advent, we certainly are at the manger, but I feel like we are taking a trip, and then this baby, this new thing, is coming to
Yeah.
us. So
I mean, the word
Advent
Advent
is,
literally means arrival, like the advent
yeah,
of something. It's something's
yes,
showing up.
yes. Um, and I'm really excited, with you and the rest of the clergy, to think about Advent in a way that I think makes maybe more explicit than even we did last year with our expecting Jesus theme, the sort of messiness of what it takes for the new thing to get here, the pain, the tearing, the blood, and the struggle. um, but how that's how hope gets born. It's again not on the couch. It's struggling and wrestling and fighting for justice and righteousness that brings about our hope. So that's what it is for me. We've got 4 weeks, I think, to get our houses in order, but not in the order that the commercial
Mm,
world will tell us. My kids already saying, "Let's pull out the decorations, Mom." Like even before Thanksgiving, they
I
wanted
know.
everything out. That's
Yeah.
November 1st, right after Halloween. This is is an inside job, but I think also an outside job in our world, and it's about us getting ready for this baby, getting
Yeah.
the nursery ready, if you will, getting the world ready, clearing things up and clearing things out for this
Yeah.
arrival of life.
I love that. I mean, I'm 20 months removed from a newborn in my world, but I still very much remember all the work that goes into preparing for the advent of a little one and the ways in which they will radically change everything. And, you think you know what to expect, but then it upends it all. And it's like, yeah, you could read all the books and talk to all the people, but surprise, this is how
Surprise!
life, yeah. Oh, that is beautiful. That is beautiful.
That arrival is going to be full of surprises, um,
Yeah.
and I think that's the beauty of the Christ child coming as a baby. Are we able to improvise and keep up with that sort of toddler baby energy? Because it's going to test us and call us to things.
Yeah.
And if we can go with it, as I'm sure you're learning, like what to go to the mat on and what to like let go of.
Yep.
Jesus will take us there. This new opportunity, this new life will
Yeah.
take us to some surprising places if we are willing to let go.
I love it. I love it. Well, that is Advent. It is the building the crib, painting the nursery. It's the necessary things to be prepared for that moment, to have your eyes tuned and your vision centered so you can see it when it's there, and to be present for what's currently here. I think that's like we're saying. We're not trying to just jump ahead to hey Christmas morning, hey. It's like no. We're in the struggle, the reality, the process getting there. It's coming, but right now this is what we're facing. We're waiting, and this is what we're feeling. It's
Right,
all of
right.
that.
Yeah, and the advent of the child will be joyful, and we're back in the struggle for
Yeah.
justice and righteousness. Um, you know, hours
Yep.
after he gets here, because we got to
That doesn't
protect
stop.
him, right? Because
Yeah.
someone's coming for him in the same way that forces are coming for all the babies
Yeah.
of the world. And we
Yeah.
need to make sure this one and all of them get fed and get educated and get to grow up and get to
Yeah.
have beauty and laughter and joy in their lives. Gotta protect them. And
Hmm.
we're back to work
Back to work.
later on Christmas Day and the day after, and then the weeks and months to come. Because we know how this story ends. And we
Yeah.
don't want that sort of state violence visited on any child,
Mm.
any beloveds in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be an adventure,
Yes, indeed.
as it always is. This coming Sunday, with this text leading us into the first Sunday of Advent, and I know there's going to be a lot of incredible Sundays to come at Riverside, and then beyond Christmas season into the new year as well. So, this Sunday in particular, everybody, if you haven't read it, Jeremiah chapter 33, verses 14 to 18, it's a good one. Nice and quick little 5 verse little snippet. You can probably memorize it if you really tried hard. Give us your questions, comments, thoughts on it. What are you thinking? Or just talk about Advent. How are you preparing for Advent? What are the traditions or rituals or ways that you intentionally move through this season, anticipating this arrival, rather than just fast forwarding to the end of Christmas? And we'll be back next week to talk more and talk more and talk more. And we will see you on the next one.